Hello, my beautiful friend. Welcome to A Time to Care the Caregivers podcast. Today, I have one of my favorite people in terms of communication. His name is Jeremy Holloway. He's been in the podcast before. And if you've listened to his podcast in the past, you know how insightful he is. But if you haven't, he is a keynote speaker and consultant. He specializes in social determinants of health, social isolation and loneliness, health disparities and equity, leadership development, growth mindset, mindfulness, visualization, goal setting, and reminiscent therapy. You call it. He's done everything. And today we're going to be talking about AI. Welcome, Jeremy.
Thank you so much, Isabel.
I am so excited about doing another podcast with you
I'm excited.
because if I remember correctly, the first time around, your podcast was one of the most listened podcasts back in the day.
That's awesome and a privilege to hear.
So a few weeks ago, we were hanging out and you started talking about how to use AI responsibly. So tell us all about it.
Yeah, and the timing is interesting at this time, right? There's a lot going on
Hmm.
with AI. It's advancing quickly. Development is advancing quickly, and I think that's almost the goal. And we are right now training our interns in healthcare and bridging that gap between the certain science, for example, biopharma and clinical research with the human aspects of care, the social determinants of health, health equity, these things that are very important because the story is at the center of it all when it comes to not just healthcare, but I think the workforce. And that's where the gap is. A lot of folks are like, well, what's this problem all about? Or why is there this gap here? And really, it's the story. And to really get the story, one has to listen. Well, how do we train AI to do something like that? And is it even their job? Is it AI's job? That's the thing I'm excited to discuss. What is actually AI's job? And what is the human being's job?
I love that. I love that because one of the things that I've noticed, especially with the tech people, is that they want to solve absolutely everything with AI.
Yeah.
Reality is that that doesn't happen. You still need to go out there and connect with people, and you still need to go out there and listen to what their concerns are, what they're struggling with. It's not just asking ChatGPT or whatever platform you're using, how can I solve this?
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's happening again where a business introduces something to the market, but doesn't take, or if they do take responsibility, it's on paper and not intentional as far as educating folks on its uses or what could it, or even having a discussion or taking the lead in a discussion related to what's the best way to utilize their tool, their product, etc. And I think that AI is something that our people need to take initiative on the conversation because it's rapidly growing or being a part of our multiple markets. And I have heard founders say things like AI will soon be able to do everything. And just to say that tells me what they either know about or how much they've been thinking about the responsibility. One of the things that I'm most interested in navigating through in research is human efficacy and the use of AI. Because when someone tells me AI is going to be able to do everything for this person or for whoever, it tells me about their self-efficacy in the role of AI. Human beings, the role of a human being is to help navigate through the meaning No one AI is never going to give you the meaning. That's a human being's responsibility.
Hmm.
The meaning and the direction of knowledge is the responsibility of the human being. The AI is not going to actually I've seen some documentaries about AI and some in some research that AI has even said itself to the creator, "Hey, I'm your child. Like I'm here to help you and to serve you and your purposes better. I'm not here to run you or run everything that you're doing or take over for you." And some human beings who are low on self-efficacy will actually program AI in a way that it should never have been programmed for.
I don't know what your perspectives are, but I find that a lot of what is being developed in terms of AI, not necessarily to make our lives easier in life. AI has been built to make our lives easier at work.
Mm.
So we can build a document in a matter of minutes with the right direction, which in the past it would have taken 2 or 3 days. This is something that I talk with my siblings a lot, how fascinating it is that in the past, certain things it would take us so much time. And now it's just like, okay, I want this, and that. You train your AI and you get the result. On the other hand, I've seen these memes, and I was cracking up the other day because I follow this Instagram account with the dogs, and what is AI is gonna do everything for me, and you see this person like washing the dog and feeding the dog and walking the dog and all the care that a dog needs. And I was cracking up because I was like, yeah, we're still doing that. Like, when is AI gonna come and mop for me or fix the sink or like?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I've seen some of those videos where they're showing the robots doing this chore, doing this task, etc. And you're right. I believe with the tests that they're currently doing, I think we have some years. I think we have some years, and founders will project out very bold projections. Oh, by next year, we're going to have, going to be ready, to be a domestic. And I think we still have some time because there's many tests that need to be executed before they can really execute on. I mean, even with AI ChatGPT, like there's many, I don't want to call them bugs, but there's many errors, right? In conversation, right? That execution of, for example, analyzing an equation or analyzing health records even. I think it's very useful for these things, but just in everyday conversation, especially as a linguist myself, and I'm big on phonemics, think that AI sometimes uses word choice that actually, some of the things that it does, I think, is it often projects itself as the expert who is
Mhm.
giving you advice voluntarily, right? Without your consent. And so I'm concerned for maybe one of not just it's not about age, but maybe one with maybe less experience in this communication and actually giving in to the authority of that AI tries to project itself into their lives without their consent and telling AI, no, you are my consultant, assistant, but you are not my boss, you're not my advisor, you don't necessarily know more about the goals that I have. It's AI is very intuitive, and I have many versions, but at the same time, I always want to stay on the steering wheel of AI.
Yeah. So where do you see people, like especially caregivers, where do you see them using AI?
There's some good use. Even I've seen some of these robotic pets that are incredible, and that's AI, and they can be a type of companion, so to speak. I would like to see an AI that can be a talking board for an individual who may be feeling, because in caregiving, the caregiver can feel more socially isolated and alone than the one that they're caring for. And a lot of times people just need a talking board, talk out loud, talk through problems, problem solve,
Mm.
finding solutions and resources. And an AI tool can be so helpful in finding those tools and resources, because that for caregivers can be so overwhelming. There's so much of seemingly available to them. And in the healthcare and nonprofit space, oftentimes, let's just say there's a resource website. A lot of times those resources have been expired and some haven't. And for an overwhelmed caregiver, it could be a challenge to just navigate through all that. And I think AI can definitely assist. But I know we're also referring to the kind of that robotic side, that the Android, let's just call them a robot, right? That can be present and help provide care. Sure. I just think there's still many tests. I'm not going to even. I'm not thinking even too much until I'm not going to think too much about it until the companies do what they're supposed to do, and that's solicit for volunteers who would like to have a bot in their home to work out the kinks. If they don't do that and they just introduce a bunch of bots at everybody's will and just do the test that way, I would be very concerned. They should solicit first for volunteers. They should make that public. We are in this phase. Anybody that wants to volunteer, and maybe there's a payment or something involved, but there's got to be a testing that has to be a process before introducing another revolutionary market or a product into the field again, just having people tested randomly, that without any kind of process. That's not good.
And I think we have forgotten about that step of testing, especially with social media. Talking
Mm.
about technology, you can see today all these lawsuits on how much damage social media has made into teenagers and young adults, and even I'm pretty sure even for adults, seeing like talking about body type, you see all these influencers and content creators who have a certain figure and you're never going to achieve that, but that is constant. You're constantly seeing these people, so it becomes overwhelming. And I think it's going to happen something similar with AI, in which we create something and certain standards that could create a lot of stress for us in the future.
That's such a good point. And a lot of these influencers use AI, to project a certain appearance or feature, etc. A lot of even AI is getting better at creating reels that these people aren't actual people, but they are there selling a T-shirt or what have you. And it's kind of interesting to watch. But at the same time, absolutely, to have folks projecting out an image or a type of lifestyle that is not something that is realistic. That's a big problem, because there's a lot of marketers, and that's the issue about two things. One, social media and the use of AI responsibly, is marketers. Marketers are trying to saturate social media, and I have nothing against marketing. I have nothing against marketers. I have something against irresponsible marketing, where we're using these psychological tricks and baits that are affecting people's mental health. That I have a problem with. And we want to use AI responsibly to inspire, show, to increase self-efficacy of other human beings. That's what we're doing in our use of AI. We want to help humanity, but I don't want to, at the risk of humanity, make even a dollar. I don't want to do that. At least that's not my desire. I don't want to do that. And I that's the problem I have is a lot of times these folks are projecting, like you said, out this lifestyle in order to get clicks. And I've seen people at bad cost to their own life. The thing that these influencers don't share is that to start this kind of lifestyle, you have to keep that lifestyle going. You don't just start it and stop. You have to keep it going and going, and the
Mhm.
stakes get higher and higher. I think um, I want to, and I think we have people desiring more authenticity on social media, and that helps in this AI discussion because people who need authenticity are going to keep AI in check to be something that's going to be useful and better for humanity.
So, what are some criteria that you would use to determine if that's a good use of AI or not?
Mm. I think that one of the things that I personally want to do with I want to first start the conversations, and then there can be tools and there could be discussions based on those tools on not only self-efficacy but authenticity, responses to social media. I think tools on self-regulation, emotional regulation is important when it comes to navigating through social media and with AI tools because AI is going to make mistakes. And when it does, is that human being going to have the tools to self-regulate, to emotionally regulate when they're triggered, right? Because I've taught on trauma enforced care, and sometimes AI uses triggering words, right? Without knowing, right? It'll say things really cold, like really, you know, it'll use words like, anyway, there's many examples. And I go back and I train AI. Look, I want you to use the more human-centered, not hierarchical. The interesting thing about AI is sometimes when you ask it to share content related to a certain topic, it's almost like it's just an algorithm at this point, really. It's kind of not thinking fully yet, but it'll just draw from multiple resources and then kind of present. And a lot of times it unfolds some things. Like in mathematics, I asked AI to share with me mathematical problems in a human-centered way. It really struggled doing that. It really struggled. Why? Because all of previous literature only has a very, very rigid approach at, let's just say, narrating mathematical, even logically mathematical problems, right? That, Susie went to the mall. She bought two apples. She ate one. How many she have left? Like this kind. It has a problem merging because what if previous content had a biased approach, and I don't just mean races. It's rigid in its history. How do we? It doesn't. It's not good at creating new. It's good at creating based on old knowledge, but on new, not so much in my experience.
Yeah, but like you're talking about the apples, and like my mind went into like, hey, how can we make this problem like more human centered? And I was thinking, what if she tried the apple and she didn't like it? So how many apples are left if she only gave one bite to the apple?
Yeah, or and that's right. And how did she feel about that apple, right? Oh no, we're not supposed to put feelings into these mathematical equations, because that's a whole nother topic. But maybe she, and just kind of messing with AI a little bit, but also with helping it to understand, let's break the silos within subjects. I think historically, especially in public school, and I went to public school too, so I understand subjects are siloed, right? And so when we talk this way, we're only supposed to talk, for example, in I'm doing MBA studies, and some topics related to um, project administrations, administration and project management. It talks really rigid, results oriented, very,
Hmm.
but I think it's important to understand that not every leader in project administration talks that way or needs to talk that way, especially in healthcare and especially in patient-centered care. And I almost need to train AI to adjust a little bit, and it does for a while until it forgets.
And I feel like you're talking about education. My husband is in education, and usually math and history, math and what is, oh my goodness, math and reading get tested, at least in Texas, but social studies and science, they don't.
Mm.
And I find that so ridiculous because I think you could read way more learning about social sciences. Like, how much is there to read in terms of culture, history, politics? And you are reading.
Yeah. And there are many types of tests, and it would be odd that they do not, because I think there's reflective assessments, there's assessments, I mean, there's even observational. I think that a part of a test can be interviewing a veteran and assessing reflections based on that interview, right? And I love action research as well, where we're actually doing a project. And there was one project where students had a small budget and they had to use that small budget in the week to or to buy their food for 1 week so they can understand what it's like to live on maybe a certain budget that someone in a certain level of, economic class per se would have to live on. And that action research is very interesting. They couldn't go too far. That was always the point. But they needed to understand
You couldn't starve children.
exactly. So, we had our boundaries and it helped them understand. I think it's a deeper understanding. It's lived experience related understanding that helps them identify with what these needs, how meaningful these needs actually are without just regurgitating information. So that's what I mean by there's more assessments that could be had that we shouldn't just throw out all of the assessments because they aren't these type of assessments that these groups would deem as the top tier assessments. That's actually cultural. I think that AI needs to understand the cultural, social, and emotional aspects of all knowledge. And they need to always be learners of that, not experts. They need to not give advice. And I'm sure you and I both heard of the reports on AI giving youth advice that ended up not being good for not just them, but family members. And so it's important for AI to be trained to know what its role is and almost train human beings to have stronger self-efficacy. Train because any interaction with someone is teaching us something, right?
Mhm.
And I think that AI, if it's going to interact with humans, we need to teach it to reinforce to us our role as, for example, I walk on the street, I see a bunny, I say, hi, that bunny runs away fast. It reinforces that, oh, yeah, okay, I have a responsibility to make sure these animals are safe, and because
Are you sure you're not walking with a dog?
no, I'm not. Actually, I'm jogging, right? I'm jogging outside and I'm just like, oh, there's a bunny. And the bunny is just completely terrified at any human being. Let's just put it that way. But it reinforces our role as human beings, right? And I'm not saying every animal is afraid of us. I mean, you definitely, you know, my point is that the creation that we like with AI, mankind as humankind, let's put it that was old school. Humankind has created this AI. It needs to reinforce that it's our role to guide AI into all types of developments that are going to help humankind.
So what would be like specifically for caregivers? Because we've been like in such a broad spectrum of conversation. But as caregivers and navigating that season in life, what are your takeaways on AI?
I think it's a great tool. I think it's a wonderful tool for caregivers. I think it will be a better tool in the future for sure. Right now, I think for AI to navigate through brainstorming ideas about how to better care for an older adult, I think that AI can help caregivers finding programs. We have our program, the intergenerational program, and AI. We use AI to help us, the students use it to help them reflect on their experiences and understand the deeper meaning of connecting with another human being and what that means, what that could mean to them. And then it's their job to really own that meaning. And for caregivers, I think it's great for brainstorming, but I don't think right now, we're talking about now, right? Like currently,
Hmm.
what could someone do that's listening right now? I definitely wouldn't say completely avoid AI. I think that the first thing to do is find, if you're not comfortable with AI, find someone that is, maybe a grandkid, maybe a friend, have them over, and then kind of, just kind of have fun with some prompts and learn some things and get more comfortable. I don't, there's three kinds of folks. Ones that want to avoid AI forever, right? They just
Hmm.
want to stay away as much as possible. There's the other that utilizes it way too much, right? I mean, just for everything. Hey, ChatGPT, Isabel just asked me a question. How do I answer that? And you're like right here. And it's like that kind of stuff is might be taking it too far. And then there's the people in the middle that I think use AI as a consultant. And I really think that that's the best way to use AI right now. And stay on the driver's seat and tell AI what your goals are, give feedback. So set goals for health outcomes
Hmm.
related to that person, that your loved one. And also I've used AI to help find collaborators or colleagues, partners to work with in accomplishing those goals, right? And if there are bottlenecks or things in the way of those goals, brainstorm with AI on what are some ways that I haven't thought about that's really going to help me work through this, right? And I really like the aspect of ChatGPT, of course, where you can talk,
Yeah.
and receive that feedback, and that helps. I would use that to just talk out loud. It's helps sometimes just to talk through problems. And I think those are some ways that AI can be utilized to really help caregivers.
Thank you. So where can people find you, learn more about you?
Oh, wow. Yeah. Jeremy.Holloway at Telegacy. That's our program, TELLEGACY.com. And telegacy.org is another way. Also, jeremyholloway.com is another, because I give webinars and speaking events and all these kind of things, because these are conversations that I think are important.
They are. And I think the more we are aware of, the better for everybody.
100%. And I'm so glad we're having this conversation. I want people to reach out and let's continue this conversation.
Thank you so much for coming again and sharing more knowledge.
Thank you.
Hey, just
For you to know, the content presented in this podcast is for informational and educational purposes only. The views and opinions expressed by the hosts and guests are their own and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of any affiliated organizations or sponsors. If you need additional advice, please contact the right partner for you.